clapperboard hook grabs attention instantly. They thought it would be funny, setting him up with her. A cruel joke. A moment of laughter at someone else's expense. But the second he sat down, and began to move his hands, everything changed. Because this wasn't going to be a joke anymore. It was going to be something no one in that room would ever forget. Chapter 1. The joke that went too far. Daniel Carter wasn't the kind of man people noticed. He came to work on time, left quietly, and rarely spoke unless necessary. In an office filled with loud personalities and constant chatter, he was almost invisible. Some called him boring. Others thought he was just socially awkward. But the truth was, no one had ever really tried to understand him. So when the team decided to spice things up, at the Friday office gathering, Daniel became the perfect target. "Let's set him up," one coworker laughed. "With who?" another asked. And that's when someone said it. "There's that deaf woman who just joined the company, what's her name?" "Emma." A few chuckles spread across the room. "Perfect," someone added. "He barely talks anyway. This will be hilarious." They didn't think twice about it. To them, it was harmless fun. But what they didn't know was that Emma wasn't just the deaf girl. And Daniel wasn't just the quiet guy. Emma sat alone at the small cafe table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she hadn't touched. She was used to being alone in crowded places. Used to the whispers, the stares, the awkward smiles that never turned into real conversations. When Daniel approached, she noticed immediately. He looked nervous, hesitant, like someone pushed him into something he didn't fully understand. He sat across from her, offered a small smile, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Across the room, their coworkers watched, trying to suppress laughter. "This is going to be painful," one of them whispered. Emma lowered her eyes, already expecting another uncomfortable encounter. Another person who wouldn't know how to communicate. Another moment where she would feel like an outsider. But then, Daniel lifted his hands. And everything changed. He signed slowly at first, carefully, like he wanted to make sure she understood. "Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm really glad to meet you." Emma froze. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught. For a moment, she didn't move at all, because in all her years, this had almost never happened. Someone who didn't just try, but someone who actually knew. Her hands trembled slightly as she responded. "My name is Emma. You know sign language?" Daniel smiled softly. "Yes. My younger sister is deaf." Across the room, the laughter died instantly. No one was smiling anymore. What they thought would be a joke had turned into something they didn't understand. And for the first time, Daniel wasn't invisible anymore. Chapter 2. The Language of the Heart. The room faded away for both of them. For Emma, it was like stepping into a world she had almost given up on. A world where she didn't have to struggle to be heard. Where she didn't feel like a burden or an inconvenience. Daniel didn't rush his words. He signed with patience, with warmth, with a quiet confidence that made her feel safe. They talked about simple things at first. Work, coffee, favorite movies. But soon, their conversation deepened. Emma shared how exhausting it was, always trying to read lips, always being left out of conversations, always feeling like she was standing behind glass while the rest of the world moved freely. Daniel listened, truly listened. He told her about his sister. About how he learned sign language not because he had to, but because he wanted her to feel understood. Because he couldn't stand the idea of her feeling alone. And somewhere between those words, something shifted. Not just between them, but within them. Across the room, guilt began to settle in. The coworkers who had planned the joke watched in silence. They saw something real unfolding. Something honest. Something deeply human. And suddenly, their laughter felt heavy. Ugly. One of them whispered, "We messed up." But by then, it didn't matter anymore. Because Daniel and Emma were no longer part of their world in that moment. As the evening went on, Emma smiled more than she had in months. Not the polite smile she used to hide discomfort. But a real one. The kind that comes from feeling seen. Before they left, she paused, then signed something slowly. "Thank you For not treating me like a joke. Daniel's expression softened. I wasn't. He hesitated for a moment, then added. And you're not invisible either. Not to me. Tears filled her eyes, but she smiled through them. Because for the first time in a long time, she believed it. The next Monday, the office felt different. People were quieter, more careful. Some tried to apologize, though words felt small compared to what they had done. But Daniel didn't hold on to anger. Because something good had come out of it. Something none of them had expected. Weeks turned into months. What started as a cruel setup turned into something real. Something meaningful. Daniel and Emma continued meeting, talking, laughing, sharing a language that went beyond words. And slowly, the office began to change too. People started learning basic sign language. They included Emma in conversations. They listened more, judged less. Because sometimes, it takes a mistake to wake people up. Final message, powerful ending. They tried to make her the punchline of a joke. But instead, she became the reason they all learned what respect truly means. And Daniel, the man no one noticed, became the one who taught everyone how to see. If you want, I can also give you 10 viral image prompts for this story, very powerful scenes for YouTube thumbnails and storytelling.